Okay, welcome to Buxton Spoken Words Fringe event, our annual Fringe event, which we always look forward to doing, and great to see such a crowd. The audience has filled the room, so hopefully we can project our voices both sides so you can all hear us. And now we're pleased to present to you some excerpts from Under Milkwood. It's a play for voices written by Dylan Thomas, and it describes 24 hours in the village or small town of Llanragid in Wales and its inhabitants. Some are dead, some are very much alive. There are many characters which we hope you will enjoy, whether you're familiar with Under Milkwood or not. There are printed programmes on the tables and chairs which hopefully may guide you to certainly identify some of the characters. So whether you're familiar with it or it's new to you, I hope you enjoy our presentation of it. Thank you.
To begin at the beginning. It is spring, moonless night in the small town, starless and Bible black, the cobbled streets silent, and the hunched quarters and rabbits wood limping invisible down to the slow black, crow-black fishing boat bobbing sea. The houses are blind as moles, though moles we find tonight in snouting velvet dingle. Blind as Captain Cat, there in the mottled middle by the pump and the town hall clock. The shops in mourning, the welfare hall in widow's weeds, and all the people of the lulled and dumbfound town are sleeping now. Hush! The babies are sleeping. The fishers, the farmers, tradesmen and pensioners, cobbler, schoolteacher, policeman and publican, the undertaker and the fancy woman, drunkard and dressmaker, policeman, postman, the webfoot cockle women, and the tidy wives.
Young girls lie bedded soft, or glide in their dreams, with rings and trousseaux, bridesmaided by glowworms down the aisles of the organ-playing wood. The boys are dreaming wicked, or of the bucking ranches of the night and the Jolly Rogered sea, and the anthracite statues of the horses sleep in the fields, and the cows in the byres, and the dogs in the wet-nosed yards, and the cats nap in the slant corners, or lope streaking and needling on the wan cloud of the roofs.
You can hear the dew falling, the hushed town breathing. Only your eyes are unclosed to see the black and folded town fast and slow asleep. And you alone can hear the invisible starfall, the darkest before dawn, minutely dew-graced stir of the black dove-filled sea, where the Arethusa, the curlew and the skylark, Rihanna, the rover, the cormorant and the star of Wales tilt and ride. Listen. It is night, moving in the streets. The processional, salt, slow, musical wind in Coronation Street and Cockle Road. It is the grass growing on Llanragid Hill. Dewfall, starfall, the sleep of birds in Milkwood. It is night in the still, squat chapel, hymning in bonnet and brooch and bombazine black, butterfly choker and bootlace bow, coughing like nanny goats, sucking mintoes, 40 winking hallelujahs. Night in the foray, quiet as a domino. In Ocky Milkman's loft like a mouse with gloves. In Diebread's bakery, flying like black flour.
It is tonight in Donkey Street, trotting silent with seaweed on its hooves, along the cockles, cobbles, past curtained fern pot, text and trinket, china dog and rosy tin tea caddy. It is night neddying among the snuggeries of babies. Look, it is night, dumbly, royally winding through the coronation cherry trees, going through the graveyard of Bethesda with winds gloved and folded and dew doffed, tumbling by the sailor's arms.
Time passes. Listen. Time passes. Come closer now. You can hear the houses sleeping in the streets in the slow, deep, salt and silent black bandaged night. Only you can see in the blinded bedrooms the combs and petticoats over the chairs, the jugs and basins, the glasses of teeth, "Thou shalt not" on the wall, and the yellowing dicky bird watching pictures of the dead. Only you can hear and see, behind the eyes of the sleepers, the movements and countries and mazes and colours and dismays and sleepers and rainbows and tunes and wishes and flight and fall and despairs and big seas of their dreams. From where you are, you can hear their dreams.
Captain Cat, the retired blind sea captain, asleep in his bunk in the seashell ship-mottled, ship-shaped best cabin of Schooner House, dreams of such seas as any that swamped the decks of his SS Kidwelly bellying over the bedclothes and jellyfish sucking him down salt deep into the davy dark, where the fish come biting out and nibble him down to his wishbone, and the long drowned nuzzle up to him.
Remember me, Captain?
You're Dancing Williams.
I lost my step in Nantucket.
Do you see me, Captain? The white bone talking. I'm Tom Fred, the donkey man. We shared a girl once. Her name was Mrs. Probert.
Rosie Probert, 33 Duck Lane. Come on up, boys. I'm dead.
Hold me, Captain. Come to a bad end. Very enjoyable. Curly Bevan, sea lawyer, born in Mumbles, sung like a linnet. Crowned you with a flagon, tattooed with mermaids, thirst like a dredger, died of blisters. Tell my auntie it was me that pawned your blue clock.
Aye, aye, Curly.
Tell my missus I never done what she said. I never.
Yes, they did. And who brings coconuts and shawls and parrots to my Gwen now?
How's it above?
Is there rum and lava bread?
Bosoms and robins.
Concertinas?
Fighting and onions?
And sparrows and daisies?
And tiddlers in a jam jar.
And buttermilk and whippets?
Rockabye baby?
When she smiles, is there dimples?
What's the smell of parsley?
Oh, my dead dears.
Where you are, you can hear in Cocker Row, in the spring moonless night, Miss Price, dressmaker and sweet shopkeeper, dream of her lover, tall as the town clock tower, Sansom syrup gold mane, whacking thighed and piping hot, thunderbolt based and barnacle breasted, flailing up the cockles with his eyes like blow lamps and scooping low over her lonely, loving, hot water bottled body.
I am a draper mad with love. I love you more than all the flannelette and calico, candlewick, dimity, crash and merino, tesori, creton, crepon, muslin, poplin, ticking and twill in the whole cloth hall of the world. I have come to take you away to my emporium on the hill, where the change hums on wires. Throw away your little bed socks and your Welsh wool knitted jacket. I will warm you like an electric toaster. I will lie by your side like the Sunday roast.
I will knit you a wallet in forget-me-not blue for the money to be comfy. I will warm your heart by the fire so that you can slip it in under your vest when the shop is closed.
Me van we, before the mice gnaw at your bottom drawer, will you say?
Yes, Mog, yes.
And all the bells of the tills of the town shall ring for our wedding.
And in the little pink-eyed cottage next to the undertaker's lie alone the 17 snoring gentle stone of Mr. Waldo, rabbit catcher, herbalist, cat doctor, quack, His fat pink hands palm up over the edge of the patchwork quilt. His black boots neat and tidy in the washing basin. His bowler hat on a nail above the bed. A milk stout and a slice of cold bread pudding under his pillow. And dripping in the dark, he dreams of...
This little piggy went to market. This little piggy stayed at home. This little piggy had roast beef. This little piggy had none. And this little piggy went wee, 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 all the way home to mother.
Waldo, Waldo!
Yes, Blodwyn, love?
Oh, what'll the neighbours say? What'll the neighbours say?
Poor Mrs. Waldo.
what she puts up with
Never should have married.
if she didn't have to.
Same as her mother.
There's a husband for you.
Bad as his father.
And you know where he ended?
Up in the asylum.
Crying for his mom.
And carrying
With
on.
that Mrs. Beatty Morris.
Up in the quarry.
Seen her baby?
It's got his nose.
Makes my heart bleed.
What he'll do for drink.
He sold her pianola.
And her sewing machine.
Falling in the gutter.
Talking to the lamppost.
Using language.
Singing in the W.
Poor Mrs. Waldo.
Oh, Waldo, Waldo!
Hush, love, hush. I'm widower Waldo now.
Now, in her iceberg white, holily laundered crinoline nightgown, under virtuous polar sheets, in her spruced and scoured, dust-defying bedroom, in trig and trim Bayview, a house for paying guests at the top of the town, Mrs. Ogmore Pritchard, widow, twice, of Mr. Ogmore, linoleum, retired, and Mr. Pritchard, failed bookmaker, who, maddened by swabbing and scrubbing, the voice of the vacuum cleaner and the fume of polish, ironically swallowed disinfectant, fidgets in her sleep, wakes in a dream, and nudges in the ribs, dead Mr. Ogmore and dead Mr. Pritchard, ghostly on either side.
Mr. Ogmore, Mr. Pritchard, it is time to take your balsam.
Oh, Mrs. Ogmore.
Oh, Mrs. Pritchard.
Soon it will be time to get up. Tell me your tasks in order.
I must put my pyjamas in the drawer, not pyjamas.
I must take my cold bath, which is good for me.
I must wear my flannel band to ward off sciatica.
I must dress behind the curtain and put on my apron.
I must blow my nose.
In the garden, if you please.
In a piece of tissue, which I afterwards burn.
I must take my salts, which are nature's friend.
I must boil the drinking water because of germs.
I must take my herb tea, which is good for me.
And have a charcoal biscuit, which is good for me.
I may smoke one pipe of asthma mixture.
In the woodshed, if you please.
And dust the parlour and spray the canary.
I must put on rubber gloves and search the peak for fleas.
I must dust the blinds, and then I must raise them.
And before you let the sun in, mind it wipes its shoes.
Sinbad sailors over the taproom of the Sailor's Arms hugs his damp pillow, whose secret name is...
Gossamer Bynum.
And the inspectors of cruelty fly down into Mrs. Butcher Bynum's dream to persecute Butcher Bynum for selling
Owl meat, dog's eyes, man chop.
Mr. Pugh fathoms asleep, pretends to be sleeping, spies Foxy round the droop of his nightcap and summons up
Murder.
Mary Ann Sailor's dreams of...
The Garden of Eden.
She comes in her smock frock and clogs,
Away from the cool, scrubbed, cobbled kitchen, with the Sunday school pictures on the whitewashed wall, and the farmer's almanac hung above the settle, and the sides of bacon on the ceiling hooks, and goes down the cockleshell paths of that apple pie kitchen garden, ducking under the depot's clothes pegs, catching her apron on the black currant bushes, past bean rows and onion bed, and tomatoes ripening on the wall, towards the old man playing the harmonium in the orchard, and sits down in the grass by his side and shells the peas that grow up through the lap of her frock that brushes the dew.
The principality of the sky lightens now over our green hill into spring morning, lark and crow and boy. Who pulls the town hall bell with blind Captain Cat? One by one the sleepers are wrung out of sleep this one morning as every morning. And soon you'll see the chimneys slow up-flying snow as Captain Cat, in sailor's cap and sea boot, announces today with his loud get-out-of-bed bell.
The Reverend Eli Jenkins in Bethesda House gropes out of bed into his preacher's black, combs his barred white hair, forgets to wash, pads barefoot downstairs, opens the front door, stands in the doorway, and looking out at the day and up at the eternal hill and hearing the sea break and the gab of birds, remembers his own verses and tells them softly to empty Coronation Street that is rising and raising its blinds.
Dear Gwalia, I know there are towns lovelier than ours, and fairer hills, and loftier far, and groves more full of flowers, and boskier woods more blithe with spring, and bright with birds adorning, and sweeter bards than I to sing their praise this beauteous morning. By mountains where King Arthur dreams, by penman wild and defiant, a claret of hill a molehill seems, a pygmy to a giant. A tiny dingle is Milkwood, by golden grove neath Gronga. But let me choose, and oh I should, love all my life and longer to stroll among our trees and stray in Goosegog Lane on Donkey Down, and hear the dowies sing all day, and never, never leave the town.
The Reverend Jenkins closes the front door. His morning service is over. Now woken at last by the out-of-bed sleepy head, Polly put the kettle on town hall bell. Lily Smalls, Mrs. Bynum's treasure, comes downstairs from a dream of royalty, who all night long went larking with her, full of sauce in Milkwood dark, and puts the kettle on the Primus ring in Mrs. Bynum's kitchen, and looks at herself in Mr. Bynum's shaving glass over the sink, and sees...
Oh, there's a face. Where did you get that hair from? Got it from an old tomcat. Give it back then, love. Oh, there's a perm. Where'd you get that nose from, Lily? Got it from my father, silly. You've got it on upside down. Oh, there's a conk. Look at your complexion. No, you look. Needs a bit of makeup. Needs a veil. Oh, there's glamour. Where'd you get that smile, though? Never you mind, girl. Nobody loves you. That's what you think. Who is it loves you? Shan't tell. Come on, Lily. Cross your heart, then. Cross my heart. And very softly, her lips almost touching her reflection, she breathes the name and clouds the looking glass.
Lily!
Yes, ma'am.
Lily! Where's my tea, girl?
Where do you think? In the cat box. Coming, ma'am.
Mr. Pugh in the schoolhouse opposite takes up morning tea to Mrs. Pugh and whispers on the stairs.
Here's your asking, dear. And your weed killer biscuit. I've throttled your parakeet. I've spat in the vases. I put cheese in the mouse holes. Here's your nice tea, dear.
Too much sugar.
You haven't tasted it yet.
Too much milk, then. As
Yes.
Mr. Jenkins said his poetry.
Yes, dear.
Then it's time to get up. Give me my glasses. No, not my reading glasses. I want to look out. I want to see.
Lily Smalls down on her knees, washing the front step.
She's tucked her dress into her bloomers over baggage. There goes P.C. Reese. He's going to arrest Polly Garter, mark my words.
What for, dear?
For having babies.
Mary Ann Sailors, opening her bedroom window above the tap room and calling out to the heavens.
I'm 85 years, 3 months and a day.
I will say this for her, she never makes a mistake.
Me, dyed red, hurrying to the bakery, pushing in my shirt tails, buttoning my waistcoat, ping goes a button. Why can't they sew them? No time for breakfast, nothing for breakfast. That's wives for you.
Me, Mrs. Dyebread one, Captain Shaw, no old corset, nice to be comfy, nice to be nice, clogging on the cobbles to stir up a neighbour. Oh, Mrs. Sarah, can you spare a loaf, love? Dyebread forgot the bread. There's a lovely morning. How's your boils this morning? Isn't that good news? Nice to sit down for the change. Time, Mrs. Sarah.
Me, Mrs. Dyebread too, gypsied to kill in a slinky scarlet petticoat above my knees. Dirty, pretty knees, see my body through my petticoat, brown as a berry, high-heeled shoes with one heel missing, tortoiseshell comb in my bright black slinky hair. Nothing else at all but a dab of scent, lolling gaudy in the doorway, tell your fortune in the tea leaves, scowling at the sunshine, lighting up my pipe.
Me, Polly Garter, under the washing line, giving the breast in the garden to my new baby. Nothing grows in our garden, only washing and babies. And where's their fathers live, my love? Over the hills and far away. You're looking up at me now, I know what you're thinking, you poor little milky creature. You're thinking you're no better than you should be, Polly, and that's good enough for me. Oh, isn't life a terrible thing? Thank God.
Mr. and Mrs. Cherry Owen, in their Donkey Street room, that is bedroom, parlour, kitchen and scullery, sit down to last night's supper of onions boiled in their overcoats and a broth of spuds and bacon rind and leeks.
See that smudge on the wall by the picture of Auntie Blossom? That's where you threw the sago. You only missed me by an inch.
I always miss Auntie Blossom too.
Remember last night? In you reeled my boy, as drunk as a deacon, with a big wet bucket and a fish pail full of stout. And you looked at me and you said, God has come home, you said. And then over the bucket you went, sprawling and bawling, and the floor was all flagons and eels.
Was I wounded?
Then you took off your trousers and you said, does anybody want to fight?
Oh, give me a kiss.
Then you sang Bread of Heaven, tenor and bass.
I always sing Bread of Heaven.
And then you did a little dance on the table.
I did?
Yes, then you cried like a baby, and you said you were a poor drunk orphan with nowhere to go but the grave.
And what did I do next, my dear?
Then you danced on the table all over again, and said you were King Solomon, and I was your Mrs. Sheba.
And then?
Then I got you into bed, and you snored all night like a brewery.
From Bynum's Butchers in Coronation Street, the smell of fried liver sidles out with onions on its breath. And listen, in the dark breakfast room behind the shop, Mr. and Mrs. Bynum, waited on by their treasure, enjoy between bites their every morning hullabaloo, and Mrs. Bynum slips the grizzly bits under the tasseled tablecloth to her fat cat.
She likes the liver, Ben.
She should do best. It's her brother's.
Did you hear that, Lily?
Yes, ma'am.
We're eating puss cat.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, you cat butcher.
It was Dr. Mines.
Oh, what's that got to do with it?
Yesterday we had mole.
Lily!
Monday otter, Tuesday shrews.
Go on, Mrs. Bynum. He's the biggest liar in town.
Don't you dare say that about Mr. Bynon.
Everybody knows it now.
Mr. Bynon never tells a lie. Do you, Ben?
No, Bess. And now I'm going out after corgis with my little cleaver.
Lily!
All the women are out this morning in the sun. You can tell it's spring. There goes Mrs. Cherry. You can tell her by her trotters. Off she trots, new as a daisy. That's Mrs. Dyebread one, waltzing up the street like a jelly. Every time she shakes, it's slap, slap, slap. Who's that? Mrs. Butcher Bynum with her pet black cat. It follows her everywhere, meow and all. High heels now, in the morning too. Mrs. Rose Cottage's eldest May, 17, and never been kissed. Oh, going young and milking under my window to the field with the nanny goats. She reminds me all the way. Can't hear what the women are gabbing round the pump. Same as ever. Who's having a baby? Who blacked whose eye? Seen Polly Garter giving her belly an airing? There should be a law. Seen Mrs. Bynum's new mauve jumper? It's her old grey jumper dyed. Who's dead? Who's dying? There's a lovely day. Oh, the cost of soap flakes. Hush. There's a hush. Somebody's coming. You can tell by the noise of the hush. It's Polly Garter. Hello there, Polly. Who's there?
Me, love.
That's Polly Garter. Hello, Polly, my love. Can you hear the dumb goose hiss of the wives as they huddle and peck or flounce and waddle away? Who cuddled who when? Which of their gandering hubbies moaned in milkwood for your naughty mothering arms and body like a wardrobe, love? Scrub the floor of the welfare hall for the Mothers' Union social dance. Your one mother who won't wriggle her roly-poly bum or pat her fat little buttery feet in that wedding ring holy tonight. There's willy-nilly knocking at Bayview. Rat-a-tat-tat, very soft. The knocker's got kid gloves on. Who sent a letter to Mrs. Ogmore Pritchard? Careful now. She swabs the front step glassy. Every step's like a bar of soap. Mind your size 12s is. That old Bessie would beeswax the lawn to make the birds slip.
Morning, Mrs. Ogmore Pritchard.
Good morning, postman.
Here's a letter for you with stamped addressed envelope enclosed, all the way from Wilf Wells. A gentleman wants to study birds, and can he have accommodation for 2 weeks and a bath? Vegetarian.
No.
You wouldn't know he was in the house, Mrs. Ogmore Pritchard. He'd be out in the morning at the bang of dawn with a bag of breadcrumbs and his little telescope.
And come home at all hours, covered in feathers. I don't want persons in my nice clean room, breathing all over the chairs.
Cross my heart, he won't breathe.
And putting their feet on my carpets, and sneezing on my china, and sleeping in my sheets.
He only wants a single bed, Mrs. Ogmore Pritchard.
There's the clip-clop of horses on the sun-honeyed cobbles of the humming streets. Bread is baking. Pigs are grunting. Gulls gab on the boat-bobbing river and sea. There's the ragged gabble of the Bear Garden School as the women scratch and babble in Mrs. Organ Morgan's general shop, where everything is sold. Custard, buckets, henna, rat traps, shrimp nets, sugar, stamps, confetti, paraffin, hatchets and whistles.
Mrs. Ogmore Pritchard.
La-di-da. Got a man in Ruthwell's.
And he got a little telescope to look at birds.
Remember her first husband? He didn't need a telescope.
He looked at them undressing through the keyhole.
And he used to shout, tally-ho!
But Mr. Pritchard, he was a proper gentleman.
Even if he hanged his collie.
Seen Mrs. Butcher Bynum.
She said Mr. Bynum put dogs in the mincer.
Go on, he's pulling her leg.
Now don't go telling her that, there's a dear.
She'll think he's trying to pull it off and eat it.
There's a nasty lot live here, what do you think?
Look at Ocky Milkman's wife that no one's ever seen.
He keeps her in a cupboard with the empties.
I think he died red with 2 wives.
One for the day and one for the night.
Men are brute, some are quiet.
In Willy-Nilly the postman's dark and sizzling, damp, tea-coated pygmy kitchen, where the spitting cat kettles throb and pop on the range, Mrs. Willy-Nilly steams open Mr. Mogg Edwards' letter to Miss Mavandy Price and reads it aloud to Willy-Nilly by the squint of the spring sun through the one sealed window running with tears.
From Manchester House, Corregid, sole prop Mr. Mogg Edwards, slate of tool, linen draper, haberdasher, master tailor, costumier, for West End negligee, lingerie, tea gowns, evening dress, trousseaux, layettes, also ready to wear for all occasions, Economical outfitting for agricultural employment, our speciality. Wardrobe sport. Among our satisfied customers, ministers of religion and JPs. Advertising weekly in the Tour Bugle. Beloved Nathaniel Price, my bride in heaven.
I love you until death us do part, and then we shall be together forever and ever. A new parcel of ribbons has come in from Carmarthen today, all the colours of the rainbow. I wish I could tie a ribbon in your hair, a white one, but it cannot be. I dreamed last night that you were all dripping wet, and you sat on my lap as the Reverend Jenkins went down the street. I see you got a mermaid in your lap, he said, and lifted his hat. He's a proper Christian, not like Cherry Owen, who said, you should have thrown her back, he said. Business is very poorly. Polly Garter brought 2 garters with roses, but she never got stockings, so what is the use, I say? Mr. Waldo tried to sell me Woman's nightie outsize. He said he found it, and we know where. I sold a packet of pins to Tom the Sailors to pick his teeth. If this goes on, I shall be in the workhouse. My heart is in your bosom, and yours is in mine. God be with you always, and keep you lovely for me in his heavenly kingdom. I must stop now and remain your eternal Mog Edwards.
And then a little message with a rubber stamp. Shop at Mog's.
Towns as full as a love their dead. And the Sailor's Arms.
Oh, Mr. Waldo, I dote on that Gossamer Bynum. She's a lady all over. If only Grandma had died, I'd go down on my knees and I'd say, Miss Gossamer, I'd say.
Gossamer Bynum, high heels out of school. The sun hums down through the cotton flowers of her dress, into the bell of her heart, and buzzes in the honey there, and couches and kisses, lazy loving and booze in her red-berried breast. Eyes run from the trees and windows in the street, steaming gossamer and strip her to the nipples and the knees. She blazes naked past the Sailor's Arms, the only woman in the diagonal earth. Sinbad sailors, places on her thighs, still dew damp from the first man-growing, cock-growing garden, his reverent, goat-bearded hands.
I don't care if he is common.
She whispers to her salad-day deep self.
I want to gobble him up. I don't care if he does drop his H's.
Sinbad's sailors watches her go by, demure and proud and schoolmarm in her crisp flower dress and crisp sun-defying hat, with never a look or lilt or wriggle, the butcher's unmelting, ice-maiden daughter, veiled forever from the hungry hug of his eyes.
Oh, Gossamer Bynum, why are you so proud? Oh, beautiful, beautiful Gossamer bee. I wish that you were for me. I wish you were not so educated.
She feels his goat beard tickle her in the middle of the world like a tuft of wiry fire, and she turns in a terror of delight away from his whips and whiskery conflagration and sits down in the kitchen to a plate heaped high with chips and the kidneys of lambs. In the blind-drawn, dark dining room of School House, dusty and echoing as a dining room in a vault, Mr. and Mrs. Pugh are silent over cold, grey cottage pie. Mr. Pugh reads as he forks in the shroud meat from the lives of the great poisoners. He has bound a plain brown paper cover over the book. Slyly, between slow mouthfuls, he side-spies up at Mrs. Pugh, poisons her with his eye, then goes on reading. He underlines certain passages and smiles in secret.
Persons with manners do not read at table.
She swallows a digestive pill as big as a horse pill, washing it down with clouded pea soup water.
Some people were brought up in pigsties.
Pigs don't read at table, dear. Pigs can't read, my dear.
I know one who can.
Alone in the hissing laboratory of his wishes, Mr. Pugh minces among bad vats and jeroboams, tiptoes through spinneys of murdering herbs, agony dancing in his crucibles, and mixes, especially for Mrs. Pugh, a venomous porridge unknown to toxicologists, which will scald and viper through her until her ears fall off like figs, her toes grow big and black as balloons, and steam comes screaming out of her navel.
You know best, my dear.
What's that book by your trough, Mr. Pugh?
It's a theological work, my dear. Lives of the great saints.
Mrs. Pugh smiles. An icicle forms in the cold air of the dining hall.
I saw you talking to a saint this morning, Saint Polly Garter. She was martyred again last night. Mrs. Morgan saw her in Milkwood with Mr. Waldo.
And when they saw me, they pretended they were looking for nests.
Said Mrs. Organ Morgan to her husband, with her mouth full of fish as a pelican's.
But you don't go looking for nests in long combinations, I said to myself, like Mr. Waldo was wearing, and with your dress nearly over your head like Polly Garter's. Oh, they didn't fool me.
One big bird's gulp and the flounder's gone. She licks her lips and goes stabbing again.
And when you think of all the babies she's got, then all I can say is she'd better give up bird watching, that's all I can say. It isn't the right kind of hobby at all for a woman who can't say no, even to midgets. Remember Bob Spite? He wasn't any bigger than a baby and he gave her 2. But they're 2 nice boys, Bob Spit and Arthur, I will say that. Sometimes I like Fred best and sometimes Arthur. Who do you like best, Organ?
Oh, Bach, every time for me.
Organ Morgan, you haven't been listening to a word I said.
And then Palestrina.
Now Tom, Dick and Harry were 3 fine men, and I'll never have such loving again. But little Willie Wee, who sat me on his knee, little Willie Wee was the man for me. I once loved a man whose name was Tom. He was strong as a bear and 2 yards long. I loved a man whose name was Dick, big as a barrel and 3 feet thick. I loved a man whose name was Harry, 6 feet tall and sweet as a cherry. But the one I love best, awake or asleep, is little Willie Wee, and he's 6 feet deep. Oh, Tom, Dick and Harry were 3 fine men, and I'll never have such loving again. But I always think, as we tumble into bed, of little Willie Wee, who is dead, dead, dead.
The sunny, slow, lulling afternoon yawns and moons through the dozy town. The sea lolls, laps and idles in with fishes sleeping in its lap. The meadows still as Sunday, the shut-eyed tasselled bulls, the goat and daisy dingles nap happy and lazy. The dull duck ponds snooze, clouds sag and pillow on cloudy hill, donkeys angelically doze on donkey down.
Persons with manners do not nod at table.
Mr. Pugh cringes awake. He puts on a soft soaping smile. It is sad and grey under his nicotine, egg-yellow, weeping walrus Victorian moustache, worn thick and long in memory of Dr. Crippen.
You should wait until you retire to your sty.
His fawning, measly quarter smile freezes. Sly and silent, he foxes into his chemist's den and there cooks up a fricassee of deadly nightshade, nicotine, hot frog, cyanide and bat spit for his needling stalactite hag and begnag of a poker-backed nutcracker wife.
I beg your pardon, my dear.
Captain Cat, at his window thrown open to the sun and the clippered sea he sailed long ago when his eyes were blue and bright. Slumbers and voyages, earringed and rolling, I love you, Rosie Probert, tattooed on his belly. He brawls with broken bottles, in the fug and babel of the dark dock bars. Roves with a herd of short and good time cows in every naughty port. Twines and spouses with the drowned and blousy-breasted dead. He weeps as he sleeps in sail. One voice he remembers most clearly as his dream buckets down. Lazy early Rosie with the flaxen thatch, whom he shared with Tom Fred the donkey man and many another seaman, clearly and nearly appears to him from the bedroom of her dusk. In that gulf and haven, fleets by the dozen have anchored for the little heaven of the night, but she speaks to Captain Napping Cat alone. Mrs. Probert.
From Duck Lane, Jack. Quack twice and ask for Rosie.
Is the one love of his sea life that was sardined with women.
What seas did you see, Tomcat, Tomcat? In your sailoring days long, long ago, what sea beasts were in the wavery green when you were my master?
I'll tell you the truth. Seas barking like seals, blue seas and green, seas covered in eels, and mermen and whales.
What seas did you sail, old whaler, when, on the blubbery waves between Frisco and Wales, you were my boatswain?
As true as I'm here, dear you tomcat's tart, you landlubber Rosie, you cosy love, my easy as easy, my true sweetheart. Seas green as a bean, seas gliding with swans, in the seal barking moon.
What seas were rocking my little deckhand, my favourite husband, in your sea boots and hunger, my duck, my whaler, my honey, my daddy, my pretty sugar sailor, with my name on your belly, when you were a boy long, long ago?
I'll tell you no lies. The only sea I saw was the seesaw sea, with you riding on it. Lie down, lie easy, let me shipwreck between your thighs.
Knock twice, Jack, at the door of my grave, and ask for Rosie.
Rosie Probert, remember her, she is forgetting. The earth which filled her mouth is vanishing from her.
Remember me. I have forgotten you. I am going into the darkness of the darkness forever. I have forgotten that I was ever born.
Captain Cat is crying.
Come back, come back.
Now the town is dusk. Each cobble, donkey, goose and gooseberry street is a thoroughfare of dusk and ceremonial dust, and night's first darkening snow, and the sleep of birds drift under and through the live dusk of this place of love. Llaregib is the capital of dusk. Mrs. Ogmore Pritchard, at the first drop of the dusk shower, seals all her sea-view doors, draws the germ-free blinds, sits, erect as a dry dream, on a high-backed hygienic chair, and wills herself to a quick, cold sleep. Mr. Ogmore and Mr. Pritchard, who all dead day long have been gossiping like ghosts in the woodshed, planning the loveless destruction of their glass widow, reluctantly sigh and sidle into her clean house.
You first, Mr. Ogmore.
After you, Mr. Pritchard.
No, Mr. Ogmore, you ordered her first.
And so, with tears in their eyes, where their eyes once were, they ooze and grumble. Husbands, she says in her sleep. There is acid love in her voice for one of the two slumbering phantoms. Mr. Ogmore hopes that it is not for him. So does Mr. Pritchard.
I love you both.
Oh, Mrs. Ogmore.
Oh, Mrs. Pritchard.
Soon it will be time to go to bed. Tell me your tasks in order.
We must
Put on our pyjamas.
take our pajamas from the drawer. But
And then you
our
must
pajamas.
And when you have taken your drawer from the drawer mark pajamas, then you must take them off.
And at the doorway of Bethesda House, the Reverend Eli Jenkins recites the Claregged Hill, his sunset poem.
Every morning when I wake, dear Lord, a little prayer I make. Oh, please to keep thy lovely eye on all poor creatures born to die. And every evening at sundown, I ask a blessing on the town. For whether we last the night or no, I'm sure is always touch and go. We are not wholly bad or good, who live our lives under milk wood, and thou, I know, will be the first to see our best side, not our worst. Oh, let us see another day. Bless us this night, I pray. And to the sun we all will bow and say goodbye, but just for now.
And Cherry Owen, sober as Sunday, as he is every day of the week, goes off happy as Saturday to get drunk as a deacon, as he does every night.
I always say she's got two husbands, one drunk and one sober.
And aren't I the lucky woman? Because I love them both.
Evening, Cherry.
Evening, Sinbad.
What do you have?
Too much.
Sailor's Arms is always open. Oh, Gossamer, open yours.
Dusk is drowned forever until tomorrow. It is all at once night now. The windy town is a hill full of windows, and from the larruped waves, the lights in the lamps of the windows call back the day, and the dead that have run away to sea. All over the calling dark, babies and old men are bribed and lullabied to sleep. Or their daughters cover up the old unwinking men like parrots, and in their little dark, in the lit and bustling young kitchen corners, they watch, beady-eyed, the long night through, in case death catches them asleep.
Unmarried girls, alone in their privately bridal bedrooms, powder and curl for the dance of the world. They make, in front of their looking glasses, haughty or come-hithering faces for the young men on the street outside, at the lamp-lit leaning corners, who wait in the all-at-once wind to woo and whistle. Blind Captain Cat climbs into his bunk. Like a cat, he sees in the dark. Through the voyages of his tears, he sees the dead.
Dancing Williams,
Still dancing.
Tom Fred, the donkey man, Curly Bevan,
Rosie, with God, she has forgotten dying.
Mr. Mark Edwards and Mr. Van Price, happily apart from one another at the top and sea end of town, write their every night letters of love and desire.
Oh, my Mark, I am yours forever.
And she looks around with pleasure at her own neat, never dull room, which Mr. Mark Edwards will never enter.
Come to my arms, m'evanouie.
And he hugs his lovely money to his own heart.
And Mr. Waldo, drunk in the dusky wood, hugs his lovely Polly under the eyes and rattling tongues of the neighbours and the birds. And he doesn't care. He smacks his live red lips, but it is not his name that Polly Garter whispers as she lies under the oak and loves him back. 6 feet deep, that name sings in the cold earth.
The thin night darkens. A breeze from the creased water sighs the streets close on the milk-wavy wood. The wood that is a God-given garden to Mary Ann sailors, who knows that there is heaven on earth, that is the fair day father wantonly ignorant chapel bridesmaid, and to the Reverend Eli Jenkins, a green-leaved sermon on the innocence of men. The suddenly wind-shaken wood springs awake for the second dark time this one spring day.
Thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed it. See you soon. So we certainly did. So just thank you to all our performers and readers tonight. Thank you for. It was a few months ago we decided we'd try and do Under Milkwood and knew what we'd taken on. We hope it worked. We certainly seem to think it did. But thanks for the inspiration to our lessons too. But because some of us knew Under Milkwood quite well before it, some of us it was new to us. So it's been great whichever side it came from. But most of all, thanks to Anne, who's had previous experience as a school teacher of producing Under Milkwood, and we're much indebted to her for the editing work she's done and the production of what we've performed for you.